Hi everyone, Simon Weston again. Today we're talking about putting technique. Now what I want to do is I want to show you the way I putt. Now that's not to say that there aren't other ways to putt, and something you can certainly enjoy experimenting with is the way you putt, the putting method and the style. So I would describe this method here that I'm using as very conventional, very popular. Wouldn't say standard, there's really no way to putt in a standard way, but you notice here my grip is left hand above the right, described as being a conventional way to putt, the right hand below the left. Now you will see some players putt with the left hand below the right, something I've done from time to time and quite enjoy that way of putting. Some other things to keep in mind in terms of the grip is you need to hold that putter in the palm of your hand, not in the fingers. Now if you look at the right hand side of the screen here, the down the line view, the shaft of the putter ideally would be in line with the forearm, so that would be a good indication of the club being held in the palm and not in the fingers. If the club was held more in the fingers, you would typically see more of an angle this way, like you would with, say, a full swing shot. So typically most of the good players are going to have this shaft sitting fairly upright as it's designed and generally in line with the forearms. Is a good thing to do. Other things to consider with the hand and the putter itself, you notice here I'm leaning this shaft slightly to the left. Now the reason I'm doing that, if you read my previous article about negative loft putting or reducing loft on putts and why I'm doing that, if you've read that article you'll understand that I believe gives the ball a better roll, doesn't lift the ball off the ground and create backspin. So it's something that I believe in, something I teach all my students to do. Other things to look at in the setup, I think the width of the stance is fairly unimportant for putting. Oh, you see my stance here is relatively wide, but narrower, wider, it can also work. Just keep in mind, if you do have a wider stance, you might have to have a little bit of a shorter putter. Whilst I'm a relatively tall guy, I'm 183 centimetres, my putter's only 34 inches, so you don't want a 35 or 36 inch putter unless you're very tall. You always want to feel like your putter's a little bit too short rather than being a little bit too long. Phil Mickelson, who's taller than me, around about the 6'2" height, he uses a 32 inch putter, so that's better in my opinion, having a putter that's a little bit too long, unless of course it is supposed to be long, like a belly putter or of course a broomstick long putter. So for a conventional short putter, make sure it's not too long for you. You'll notice from the down the line view, I like to have my toe line parallel to my target line. Knees, hips, the shoulders must be parallel to the target line, but again, this stance doesn't have to be square. I've seen players putt very well with an open stance, which should be the left foot back, or even sometimes a closed stance. Not that important, the alignment of the feet. Very important though that you align your shoulders parallel to your target line. So the reason I have a square stance, I just find it easy to get my shoulders square. A couple other things to be aware of before you start this putting stroke is the position of the ball relative to your eyes. Now you'll notice here I've got that ball directly underneath my left eye, so that ball is forward of the center, which is, I think, a good place to have it, particularly if you're going to put your hands ahead of the ball as I have. So you're going to get a little bit of an upward strike rather than a downward hit, and playing the ball forward is going to help you to achieve that. From the down the line view, if we draw straight up from the golf ball, you'll notice that it's underneath my eye line again. I would say a lot of people tend to like to have it there. If the eye line is slightly inside the ball, that's still going to be okay. What I wouldn't like to see is the eye line out past the ball. That would be a real problem. Never seen a good player ever have their eyes past the golf ball. So there's your key points to look at for the address position. The way you hold the club, left hand on the top, holding through the palm of the left hand. You probably can just see there that my left hand index finger is overlapping the right hand, so it's on the outside. Pretty conventional stuff there. width of the stance, for me here it's about shoulder width, perhaps a little wider. Ball position set just slightly forward of centre, which ideally is underneath my left eye. Shaft leading slightly forward to the left. Ball position underneath the eyes is where I like it to be. Really important, people, that you get this shaft and forearms to line up. So what that means is your arms are going to have a slight bend, the elbows will have a slight bend. Okay, so it's very conventional setup. That's the way that I typically putt, the way I like to teach my students to putt. Now when it comes to the stroke itself, we don't want to have any influence from the hands. So the hands and the wrist are going to do nothing in our stroke. They just hold the putter. What's going to make this putter move is not rocking the shoulders, as people sometimes say. What's really happening here is the chest, so the upper torso, is going to rock or rotate back and forward around the spine. In fact, the spine also rotates. So as the chest is rotating, this of course will make the arms move. If the arms are moving, given that the hands are holding the putter's going to move. So that's essentially what we're looking for. A very simple one-piece stroke where we're just using our chest to move the arms, to move the putter, and make a backswing. Right, now, how far back you go, I can't help you with that. It's going to change all the time, of course, depending on how far you want to hit it and how fast you're going to swing the putter. But let's say, as a general guide, I like the backswing length to be matched by the follow-through length. I just think that's the best way to do it. You might have a slightly longer follow-through than in the backswing, but certainly not a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1. It's pretty much a 1-to-1. Alright, now if you look at this closely, you'll notice that my address position with the putter, which we talked about a moment ago, and then when I come back and I hit the golf ball right here, it's exactly the same. Now, putting is the only shot you can essentially preset your impact at address. There's not enough force in this stroke to change any angles. The wrists and hands are remaining very passive, very quiet, doing virtually nothing. The shaft gets back onto the ball with that slight forward lean to the top of the handle forward of the ball, makes the ball roll off the putter face more quickly, more sort of top spin rather than back spin, and the follow through matching the same length as the backspin. Now obviously here I'm in my teaching studio, this is not a putting green, so you get the idea of the technique, and I want you to really be aware of how quiet and inactive the hands are in the stroke. So if you keep those hands and wrists quiet, you're not going to change the loft on your putter, and that's going to be a great way to be a consistent player. Now looking from the down the line view, a lot of people have this idea that the putter should travel in a straight line back and forward towards the target. Now this is just not true. You can try and do that. You can manipulate your hands around a bit to make that happen, but very inconsistent way of putting. And you'll notice, whilst the putter is upright, it's by no means 90 degrees. Most putter lying would be around in the range of 70 to 71 degrees. So you've still got a fair bit of lean over here. Even a long putter, a broomstick putter, has a line of at least 10 degrees. So you can't have a 90 degree shaft at address. So therefore, as the putter swings, it's going to swing in an arc. Right, you hope you can notice that my putter head is swung back from the ball, but also in off that red line. It's not gone straight back from the golf ball. That's a natural arc because I'm not using my hands, not using my arms. I'm just rotating my chest, and the putter is moving because of that. The club will swing on an arc. Right? Now that is true in the downswing as well. As you come through and you hit, you see the putters come back off that red line. So it's not swinging straight through the ball. It's on an arc, both back and through. People who are trying to make the putter go in a straight line, whilst it can appear to do that because it's a slow enough stroke, it does require manipulation and adjustment in the hands, and under pressure particularly, that may be a little bit inconsistent. So I like this idea of of an arc on both sides. The club face will stay square to the arc, so you'll notice here that the toe of the putter seems to have moved back a bit more than the heel, which it has, but that doesn't mean it's open. And as they come through and go past the ball, the toe of the putter has gone past the heel. And again, but that doesn't mean that it's closed. The club face is always relative to the path of the swing. So given that our putter head is moving in somewhat of an arc here, the club face is going to appear to rotate as well. So give that some thought. Certainly have an open mind when it comes to putting, experimenting different grips, different types of putters, but I think the basic concept of how you swing a putter is just what we've discussed here today. Thank you.